In this video, we're going to be looking at the law of indices, which involves fractions or thirds. So in order to do this, let's have a look at what we already know. Let's look at some square roots. The square root of 81 is 9. Technically, it's plus or minus 9, but for the purpose of this video, we're just going to be looking at the positives. So let's look at, on the end, the reverse, obviously, 9 squared is 81. Let's look at a cube root. The cube root of 27 is 3. Therefore, 3 cubed is 27. Okay, so square roots, cube roots, these are things that we need to be familiar with. Now let's have a look at the fraction. Let's just for argument's sake that the square root of 9 is equivalent to 9 to the power of half. Now I'm going to prove this to you by using the multiplication law. If I take 9 to the power of half and multiply it by 9 to the power of half, using the multiplication law, because the base is the same, I can add the indices. A half plus a half is 1, so it's 9 to the power 1, which is just 9. Now let's have a look at if 9 to the power half was the square root of 9. The square root of 9 times the square root of 9 is the same as saying the square root of 9 all squared, and they're opposites of each other, they're inverse of each other, so that just leaves us with the number 9. Therefore we can establish that the square root must be equivalent to the power of half. So let's write this in a purple box. We can say that a base to a fraction, so this is to the power a fraction, 1 over n for argument's sake, is the same as the nth root of a, all right, where n is obviously the root. So put a purple box around it and let's write that down. So let's just use that a couple of times. So if I write that 15 to the power of half can be written as the square root, so we don't need to write the number, of 15. 16 to the power of half is the square root of 16, which we can evaluate as 4. Okay, remember we're only looking at the positives here. We're not really interested in writing plus or minus 4 because we're not solving anything. And we can also work back the other way. We can say, well, the square root of 9 is the equivalent of 9 to the power of half, okay, which we know is the answer 3. But of course, this all deals with fractions where the numerator is only 1. What happens when the numerator is a number? Well, there's a rule that we can follow for that. So let's just write this down. What we say is a base to a fraction, so numerator being m, the denominator being n, is the same as saying a to the power 1 over n, all to the power m. Now, using our power of a power law, we can say that those two things are the same. Now, we also know that a to the power 1 over n is the same as the nth root of a, and of course we're going to put that all to the power m, which simplifies to be the nth root of a to the power n. Okay, all over the root. Now let's pop that in a purple box. Okay, that's a very important rule. All right, now let's use that rule. Let's do some examples. So if I want to write down so let's do 8 to the 2 over 3. Okay, so applying this rule, we can write that as the cube root of 8 squared. Okay, so the cube root, let's just look at that. The cube root is, obviously we'll work that out, 8 squared is 64, so we want the cube root of 64, and the cube root of 64 is 4. Now I'm going to show you how to use this rule by writing it as a fraction using the raising of power of another law, because look, for example, at this question. I'm going to do 16 to the power 5 over 4. Now, if I was to do that as the method above, I would need a calculator and I'd really struggle with it. Let me just show you. So this denominator tells me I'm doing the 4th root of 16 to the power 5. Now, I don't know off the top of my head what 16 to the power 5 is. So I therefore need to find another strategy, and that means using the first line of this purple box. Okay, and you'll see how much easier it is without using a calculator. So let me just reevaluate that. So let's start again and go, well, 16 to the power 5 over 4 is the same as 16 to the power 1/4 all to the power 5. Now I can work out what 16 to the power 1/4 is, because I know that's the 4th root, and the 4th root of 16 is 2, because 2 to the power 4 is 16. So I'm essentially, in the bracket I've got 2, and I'm obviously raising that to the power 5. 2 to the power 5 is 32. Much, much simpler to work it out using this method than it would be to use this method. As you can see, I got stuck here, need a calculator. All right, so it's really useful to see how this rule can be broken down.